All right, good morning. Thank you guys very much for joining the weekly training call number 4. And today we're going to go over how to properly work life insurance leads. And I'm going to have a couple of agents that have had some success kind of give their input. Again, this will be put on YouTube after the call so that everyone can reference that and go back and listen. And there's several agents that are either sick or out of town or were with family, and so they're not on the call this morning. But we will get started in talking about how to properly work life insurance leads. And if Dallas is ready, I've got Dallas on the call, and Dallas has been a friend of mine for years. He's been in the insurance business for years. He's been very successfully the last few years working life insurance leads. And so I wanted to kind of give him the floor for a few minutes so you don't always just hear from me, and you can hear from someone else that has had some success to maybe pick up on something that he's doing that we're not doing, or that you're not doing as a new agent or a struggling agent. So Dallas, are you ready to take over for a couple minutes?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Let it rip.
All right, well, when it comes to life insurance leads, the thing that I've found is the most important thing. It's not the quality of the lead. It's not, finding that magic lead source that's going to give you the perfect leads. When it comes to leads, the most important thing that I have found is having a good system in place. What is going to separate you from other agents that get that lead? And let me tell you now, I don't believe, there may be, but I do not believe that there is such a thing as an exclusive lead, because, one, if a company sells it to you, they are going to sell it to other people. They may sell it through another branch of their company. They may sell it through another identity, but they are going to sell it. If they don't, if you do find a company that finds an exclusive lead, you cannot be promised that person that purchased the lead has not went on 3 or 4 different websites and purchased leads. People get bored and they go on their computer and they look all over the place. So when it comes to leads, you have to set yourself apart from the other 4, 5, 6 agents that are going to call them. And the way that you do that is to have a system in place. When I get that lead, whether it be a brand new lead, and I break it up. I purchase brand new leads, and I purchase aged leads as well. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But when I get that lead, whether it be an old lead or a new lead, I am going to call it first thing. The first time I call it, I'm going to leave a voicemail. I'm going to give them a reason to call me back on that voicemail. Hey, I've got your quote ready. I just need to ask you a few more questions, and I will give you that free quote that you asked about. I want to leave them wanting something more. I'm not going to give them a quote over the phone on a voicemail ever. I'm not going to just say, hey, my name's Dallas. I've got a lead from you, and please give me a call, because they're going to get that message from 7 other people. I'm going to give them a reason. Hey, I've got a very interesting quote for you, and if I'm not the lowest, boy, I'll be as shocked and amazed. I do have 2 more questions I need to ask you, and then I will be ready to give you that quote. I'm going to call them. The first time I'm going to leave a voicemail message. When I call them, I am going to write down, 1, what time I called them, 2, what number I called them from, and 3, the action that I took. If I called them from my cell phone at 8 a.m. that afternoon, I'm going to call them at probably 2 o'clock from my office phone. That way, because if they're a voice me, it's going to show up as different numbers that's calling them. So I'm going to keep track of what phone number I called them from. If I get a new lead, I'm going to try to call it 2 to 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening, not because I'm trying to be a pain, but because some people work from 9 to 5, some people work from 3 to midnight. And so you've got to find when that person is available. I'm going to text them and just let them know, hey, again, giving them a reason to call me back, having some urgency about the text. Hey, this is Dallas. I've got an exciting quote for you here. I just need a few questions from you. and I believe we can get you some coverage today. And then I'm going to email them if there's an email on the list. Short, sweet, different. Don't put life insurance quotes in the header. Don't put, we've all seen the taglines from companies. Put something in the header like Dallas Keithley, let's get you some coverage today, or I just have one more question. Something that they're not going to see from New York Life, from Aflac, ING, whatever. Then, if I speak to that person, if I'm trying to set an appointment, I'm going to do that on that first call. The worst thing that you can do with a lead, and I'm going to kind of contradict myself, but the worst thing that you can do with a lead is make it a chaser. In other words, where you are calling it and calling it and calling it and calling it. Get in, get out. It's either a hot, either it's not. If I talk to that person and they say, they give me, I know you guys talked about objections. If they say, hey, look, I need to talk this over with my wife, I'm going to try to tell them, hey, okay, I'm going to sit here and do some paperwork, talk it over with her, and let's do this. If they give me a valid excuse, there's about one or two valid excuses to call them back, I'm going to set it up like an appointment, if I'm selling it over the phone. And then I have on my wall a hanging file folder that says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to call you back at Monday at 9 o'clock. And then I'm going to, after I hang up, I'm going to send them an email saying, hey, don't forget, we're calling you back Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And if it's a cell phone, I'm going to send them a text message saying we're going to change your life on Monday at 9 o'clock. And so, just like I said, my system's not perfect. It's the system that I use. It's something I use to keep track. What most agents do, they will call them once, then they'll shove it in the back of a file and then never call them again. And that's a wasted lead. The last thing I'll say, and then I'll answer any questions you may have, on leads. I told you earlier, I buy old leads and I buy new leads. I like old leads. I write more business off of old leads. And the reason being, when someone puts in a lead, a request for a life insurance quote, they're going to get called 10 times that day. What's going to happen is they're either going to write business that day, which very rarely happens because agents aren't aggressive enough. They're looking to just steal them out. But what's going to happen is they're going to get about 5 calls, and then they're going to stop answering their phone. And they're going to say, you know what, I just wanted to quote, I'm tired of all this, and they're going to put their phone, and for the next week to 2 weeks, they're not going to answer their phone unless it's their mom or their wife calling. And so what I like to do is get an old lead, and this is where being a broker with Secure Insurance Group is the most valuable tool you have. You can call them up and say, hey, listen, I got a lead from you. It looks like it's been a while back, and I just have a quick question for you. Did you get your needs met? Were you able to find the coverage that you needed? You're going to get a no, I got sick of it and I hung up. In that case, I'm going to say, okay, real quickly, let me give you some options, and then I'm going to verify their information, and I'm going to give them set an appointment, or depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to set an appointment, don't ever give a quote over the phone. If you're selling over the phone, then verify the information, give them 3 quotes, and go from there. But if you have an old lead and they say, you know what, yeah, we took care of it, tell them, great, that is awesome. I'm glad you found the coverage you need. Real quick, though, I work with over 50 different companies. Let me make sure you're not paying too much for that. Let me see if you got a good deal. And people are anxious to see if they got a good deal. Every person knows the reason that a person shops is because they want to tell their friends, I got the lowest price life insurance out there. So don't ever say, okay, did you get coverage? Yeah. Oh, okay, thank you, sir. Have a good day. Man, I want someone to say, yeah, I purchased from New York Life. Well, immediately I know that I think it's New York Life that goes through AARP, and their plan's going to go up at either at age 80 or every 5 years. So I'm going to show them a plan that never goes up. You know, I'm never going to walk away from the table not being the lowest price or the best thing that they can do. So I know I covered a lot, and my wife tells me I speak too quickly when I get excited, and I am excited about life insurance. Any questions?
I love it. Great job. Any questions, anybody?
I think I lost them all.
Yeah. Tim, Jeff, Jason, Dennis, Ted, Tom, Lowell.
All right.
When you,
Just that good.
I guess so. That valuable. Does anything jump out at you, Ted, that from what he said that you have a question on at all?
Not that I have some questions, there's some new information.
Good.
Where to get the age lead?
Where do I get age lead?
Yeah.
Now you're asking me to give up my sources. Now, there's different companies. A lot of different companies have age leads. Life Leads Direct, I have found, is probably my favorite tool out there. Life Leads Direct, they're pretty good about, and you know, I'm like Peyton Manning with Budweiser right now, giving them a plug. But they're pretty good about having some sort of discount in place. I think if you put in, they'll match it to a certain percentage. If you put in $200, they'll give you $100 worth of leads for free. But then they've got two categories. They've got, you can click Browse Leads. That's going to show you all the new leads within the past 3 or 4 days. Or you can pick Vintage Leads. And with Vintage Leads, you can look it up by county. You can look it up by state. You can look it up by city. And then they'll break down how old the person is. I'm a finalist sense guy. I like looking at people that are 65 to 85, finalist sense, wanting $15,000 in coverage. And Life Leads Direct will give you all those options.
Yeah. Hey, what's the average price on those aged leads, and what's the average age of the ones you're purchasing?
It goes anywhere from, age leads can go anywhere from 15 cents a piece. Now, they're going to be a year to 2 years old if you do that. All the way up to, I think their most expensive lead is like $15.
Okay.
And the thing I like about them, you can pick and choose. I go on there every morning, look and see what's on. They send me an email about 5 o'clock every morning. And now as soon as I get up, that's one of the first things I do is look and see what has come through. The age leads, as far as like how old, I love leads that are about a month to 2 months old. Because it's still fresh, but, you know, it's not, they've had time to, they're starting to answer their phone again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Any other questions for Dallas?
What's the pricing on the 30 to 60 day old leads, roughly?
Probably somewhere around $3, I'm guessing.
$3 or $4. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
All right. Do they have any system in place, kind of like that one that Cody was mentioning regarding if you're not not being able to set an appointment? Do they have any type of crediting available on those or not?
That's a great question. If you purchase a new leads are going to be anywhere from $6 to $15. If you purchase a new lead, you have 14 days to get credit for it, and it's simple. And they are one of the best companies I've ever found about giving credit. They're on their website. It says replace a lead. You click on that. You give the number. You type in a reason. If it's a valid reason, then they will replace it usually within a couple hours. If it is a vintage lead, they will not replace it.
Is vintage anything other than new, or is vintage a certain age?
Vintage is anything that is over, I think it's probably 10 days.
That makes sense.
I'm guessing there, but I think that's probably about right, somewhere around 10 days.
That makes sense.
Maybe longer
Good.
than that, maybe 30 days.
Any other questions for Dallas? Well, thank you, Dallas, very much for sharing, buddy. I really appreciate that. We're going to do a couple other things before the call's over today. I'm going to let one of our new agents that has had a little success. No, he's not an expert, and yes, he's still brand new, just started at the beginning of the year. But he was working life insurance leads, he was able to submit about $5,300 last month and already $3,500 last week for February. And so I'm going to turn it over to him just for a brief couple of minutes, not as long as Dallas's was. Obviously, Dallas is he's an expert, and he's been doing this for a while, so I wanted him to share a little more time. But I'm going to turn it over to Tom for just a couple quick minutes to kind of share with you what he's been doing, because he's equally as new as most of the people on the call. So
I just call the leads, man. I just call, but maybe I do think, and I've got like kids in our high school sports and stuff going on the weekends, and if I call the lead during the day 2 or 3 times and I'm getting nothing, I'll call at night. And if that means that I'm at my son's basketball game and I leave at halftime and go sit in the car and call leads, calling leads doesn't take, if you don't hang up the phone, it doesn't take that long to get through 10 or 15 or 20 hot leads that you're trying to get to, that you've gotten the last week or two in the evening. Or I've called on Saturday mornings, Saturday afternoons, Sunday afternoons. I sold someone, I had a lead come through on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock. I set an appointment Saturday night at 8:01. I figure if they're up pushing the button on the computer, I'm calling. It's fair game. And that's what I do. I call the leads as soon as they come in and alternate my times. And if I carry my leads with me, so that if it's an odd time and I have 3 minutes, I can probably call 6 or 7 leads. Most of them are going to voicemail anyway. So that's all I've been doing.
hey, how soon would you say you're calling your leads? I know some people wait. They may print them out and wait 15, 20 minutes.
I wouldn't wait 15, 20 seconds. I found that whenever a lead comes through on my computer, my success rate is probably double whenever I call it before I take the time to print it out, as opposed to taking the time to print it out. Good. Go get it, come back, sit and call. Because by the time someone else has already called them, you got these people calling and selling them $8 accidental death policies and that sort of stuff. You want to get in early, or probably wait a week or two until the people are done being pissed off.
I like that. That's actually really good advice too, because the average agent will think, okay, I'm going to print this out. I'm going to go look and see where they're at. We're looking for $25,000. Let me run a quote. And by the time you do all that, they're probably are either bought or their phone is off. And so that's why we want to call them within seconds.
I also, whenever I have a feeling I'm the first one through to the customer, I explain to them I'm an independent agent, that I'm going to be sending them through 69 different companies, so they're going to get the best price from me, that they're welcome to take these other calls, but they're probably going to get hit up with 4 or 5 other people, a State Farm guy, a Farm Bureau, whoever it is, AARP. So if they want to turn their phone off, they can. If they want to do it to not get mad at me, I'll see them Thursday at 2. And just to give them a heads up. And I found it interesting because one of them said, I read the terms and conditions. I know I'm getting the calls. So these people who say they didn't know they weren't getting the calls didn't read the terms and the conditions.
Okay, nice. Any questions for Tom at all?
So you're getting these lead sources emailed to you daily? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I think the way most of them are hooked up is as soon as someone puts clicked, it just auto sends to whoever's on the leads.
Yeah, typically a text and an email. That's a good question. Any other questions for Tom? As you can tell,
how much time a day are you spending on the leads? Like half an hour or an hour?
Like, are you talking about like total time on the phone?
I might do 15 or 20 minutes 2 or 3 times a day.
Okay.
But it's not.
Okay.
It doesn't take that long. You dial a number and it goes to voicemail. I leave a message the first time. I don't leave a message the other time, and then like Dallas said, I'll alternate between my cell phone and my office phone to give them a couple different numbers. Or
I think you even got a Google Voice number too. You got like 3 numbers you
Yeah.
call them from,
yeah,
which is actually really intelligent. That's something that I hadn't had on the air, but calling from multiple different numbers. Any other questions for Tom? Thank you very much for sharing, buddy. I did want to give you guys a few, and some of these Dallas and Tom may have already shared a couple of these ideas, but I wanted to give you a few ideas that I had made some notes on this weekend, and then we'll answer some more questions at the end. The way I have worked life insurance leads in the past is as soon as I receive that text alert, I make sure the company sets me up on a text message, and as soon as I receive that text, I am calling within seconds. If it takes me 10 seconds to hit the call button, they're already on the phone with someone. And so I'm calling within seconds. Only thing I'm looking at is as I'm clicking the dial, as I'm clicking their phone number on the text to dial, only thing I'm looking at is their name and where they're at. Just so that when I comes down to set an appointment, I can at least know where they're at. But if I don't gather it, I can just put them on speaker and figure it out, or pull up my email. The key is to just call them instantly. I always call within 10 seconds. And like Dallas said, you have a system. Find a script that works for you. As he said, it needs to be short and sweet, but find something that works for you. Something that has always worked for me is if I'm selling over the phone, I'd say, hey, this is Cody from Secure. You just requested a free life insurance quote. I'm going to give that to you right now. Let me verify your date of birth. And so I'm going, or if I'm selling them, or if I'm setting an appointment, which is what all new agents are going to do, is, hello, this is Cody from Secure Insurance. You just requested a free life insurance quote. I'm going to drop that by tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Does that sound okay? And so you are going for the close and asking to drop by or pop by with a specific time. You're acknowledging the fact they want a free quote, and you're asking if you can drop that off. Ted and I set appointment of the day in the car. He had a lead come in, so I grabbed his phone, called it immediately, left a voicemail, and then texted. And when I texted, I just said, can we drop off your free quote tomorrow, or at 9 o'clock, something like that. And so you're just dropping it off, or you're popping by, and you're using free quote as a way to just get in front of them. And as Tom said, you can use, hey, I represent 69 different carriers. I'm gonna be the lowest quote you receive. So let's not waste your time or anyone else's time, and let's get you the quote you want. Yeah.
Do you, let's say, for when you're giving them a time for the next day, do you always make it coincide with when you get the lead?
Actually, a good question. I do not. I normally either know my schedule or I've got my schedule pulled up, but that actually is a good thought to think that, okay, if they're available this time of this day, then they could be available the next day at the same time. That's actually a really good point. I've never thought of that. But I just, I either say, 9 or 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock or in the evening. I'm trying to fill them out for a specific time. But that's actually not a bad idea. That's a good question. When I do call, doesn't matter if it's the first call or the 30th call, I always leave a voicemail every single time. I didn't used to, but one time I called a lead, I left a voicemail 8 times in 2 days. And the lady finally picked up at 7:45 at night on the second or third day, and she said, I said, hey, this is Cody from Secure. She's like, I know who you are. I've heard the voicemails. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to get back to you. Thanks for calling me again. This is a perfect time to talk. And so they will remember us by how often we touch them. And if we're relentless and determined, it'll show, and they'll say, you know what, I've got to talk to this guy so I can either get a quote and buy, or so he can leave me alone, which is either way is a positive for us, because we either want to sell or we want to move on to the next individual. So, go ahead.
Do you leave a voicemail on old leads? Or just new leads?
If I'm calling them like Dallas does, where I'm like cherry picking specific old leads and I'm not calling a ton of old leads, then absolutely. If I'm calling through a list of hundreds of aged leads, then no, because I'm typically using auto dialer or something like that. But if I'm cherry picking some leads that are 30 or 60 or 100 days old, then yes, I would leave a voicemail in that case. I also call morning, afternoon, and evening every single day, at least three calls per day for 30 days until they set an appointment, get a quote, buy, or tell me to leave them alone. Persistence is the key to this. The average agent will call someone one, maybe 2 times, 3 times at the most. They won't get them, and they'll think, you know what? This is ridiculous. These leads don't work. There's no one wants to buy anything, or just instead of working them hard and continuing to work them. I read a statistic that 80% of sales come after the 5th contact. I've seen that multiple times, and I thought, you know what? That makes sense, and that's the reason that most agents never make a sale or never make money working leads. The average agent works leads for a couple weeks and then they go try to get a refund or stop it, or cancel their leads because they didn't know how to properly work them. If there's a no answer after that very first call, I call within 10 seconds. If they don't answer, I immediately send them a text. It's really short and sweet. But all my texts and all my emails are, just like Dallas said, they're very short and sweet. You just requested a free quote. Let me give that to you right now. Or can I drop by tomorrow at 10 o'clock with your free quote? You're asking or you're going for the close, or you're asking for them to let you in their home or to give them the free quote right now. But you're asking, if I don't get a hold of them, via text, then via email, and then if I don't get a response from them, I'm texting them and emailing them every day until they buy, get a quote, set an appointment, or tell me to leave them alone. If they're close to me, like say the lead is within 15, 20, 30 minutes away, and I've spent 3 or 4 days touching them 16, 20 times, and I haven't got a hold of them, if they're not far, go door knock them. You paid for the lead, you might as well get your money's worth. So I'll go up to the door. My name's Cody with Secure. You requested a free life insurance quote 4 days ago. Let me give that to you right now. Can I come in for 2 seconds? You're stating who you are, where you're from, why you're there, and you're asking to come in, which is the key to actually getting the door. Whether we're trying to get in the door, or whether we're trying to sell them insurance, if we don't ask, it ain't gonna happen. I also save the unreached leads. If I've got a whole box full of them back there with thousands of leads. If I can't get a hold of them, or I get a credit on them, as long as the number's not disconnected or something, then if they're close, I'm gonna save it anyway, so I can email them or door knock them or something like that. But I'm gonna save the lead for that downtime or that time that I don't have anything to do, because we always want to stay busy selling. That's our job. And so I'll save those for 60 days from now. If they also, one thing that Dallas and I have done quite a bit, if they tell me no, we may not gel. There may not be that connection with me as individual. I may be too aggressive a personality for them. So I could give it to another agent and say, hey, call this. If you sell it, you can have 60%. It's worth a phone call, They may have told me and Dallas, we've done this all the time, where they'll tell me no, but they'll tell him yes. Or they'll tell him no and me yes. It's weird because we're not going to get along with everyone we talk to. And so we've actually sold some business doing that. And so it's kind of funny, but it does work. I also, something that's Tom's done that I've done a little bit, but not as well as he has in the past, is calling from multiple phone numbers. He's got a cell phone number, he's got a Google Voice number, and he's got a office number. And you're calling from multiple different places, so they have a better chance of, if they saw the first number and they heard the voicemail, they thought, okay, well, it's not that guy, so maybe about something else, and they may pick up, so I don't know. Those are all some tricks of the trade, some of the things that I've done and some of the agents that I know have done. Any questions on any of these things? I know we've had some really good questions so far. This has been a really valuable call. Any questions from anybody in here? Anybody on the phone? Anything that Tom or Dallas want to add? Tim, Jeff, Jason, Dennis. You all had some good questions. Anything else? Any questions? If you do have questions, feel free to call me, text me, email me. My cell phone number, most of you have it, 417-343-4397, or email cody.askins@secureig.com. We're going to meet for most of your one-on-ones will be today. So if something comes up, feel free to ask me. We'll be putting this on YouTube so everyone can reference back to it. Any other questions before we end it and start a fantastic, fun-filled, sales-filled, commission-filled week? Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys very much for joining the call. Let's rock and roll this week. Let's have a big week. Everyone's going to put up at least $1,500 a commission. I can feel it. So have a fantastic week. And we will talk soon. Thank you guys for joining the call. Thank you, Dallas, for sharing. Thank you, Tom, for sharing. And I will talk to you guys soon. Goodbye. Thank you, guys.